Hello, friends! We're back in our hexagonal windows.
We are.
We are apart. I can't reach over and touch you. I'm trying.
No, I know. We need hugs.
Yeah, I'm Anna Prosser Robinson. That's Gillyweed. And we are Eye on the Storm. This is a show where usually you would see us talking to community members and heroes of the storm about the game and teaching us with their knowledge how to play the game. We just came back from BlizzCon. And before BlizzCon, when we were together, we did kind of a vlog style, just our reactions and thoughts kind of show. And instead of giving ourselves the entire week off, which is what we kind of were about to have to do because of the impossibility of getting a show planned right after BlizzCon, we decided to do yet another kind of vlog style show for you. So if you've never seen the show, this is not an example of what the show normally is like. But if you have seen the show, I hope you like this kind of vlogish style that we're about to do.
Yeah. Normally we bring on a guest and we talk about things happening in the community, things happening in the game, changes that are upcoming or have just happened, or even tournaments that are going on. Next week we're hoping to have a super secret, special, awesome guest. Is this where we talk about it, or are we going to save it to the end maybe?
Let's just tell him now.
Okay.
Let's just tell him right now.
All right. So we are planning to have members from the World Champion Team Cloud9 on. Right. And the reason why it's not this week and that it's taking a little bit more time is because they, like the day after BlizzCon, flew to China because they have been invited to participate in the Gold League. So really big hype for them. It's really awesome that there's 16-hour time difference between them and us, which means that we do have to kind of figure out how to logistically make that work. When they have access to computers is not when our show is. So there may be like a pre-recorded segment, but we're going to get it figured out so that way we can have people on. And we know that you guys really like them and we really like them too, so we're really pumped to bring them on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk definitely in depth about what it was like to watch them win, but I'm just excited to have them as guests next week, not only because they're world champions, but because they've been amazing representatives of North America. We're based in North America. They're really fun to talk to and really passionate, so that's gonna be great. And we have a play session usually during our shows. We won't tonight, but when we do have a play session next week, we're gonna play with their Murky composition, their famous Murky composition that they played during the semifinals, which I'm sure we'll talk more about tonight as well. But yeah, so look forward to that next week. But this week it's chill time. It's chill and talk and feel, and I feel like I have a lot to say this time, where I'm normally kind of like a very like PR and I give the talking points and the marketing and I feel like I have a lot to say about BlizzCon that is not that for the first time.
Awesome.
So I'm feeling like being very like gritty and honest tonight.
Yeah.
But I think we should go through kind of chronologically. And last time you saw us, we were in ESL Studios in Burbank and we were practicing for opening weekend, or it was right after opening weekend.
Week. Yeah. This is the day after.
Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of told them a lot about that, but should we talk about opening weekend anymore? Opening week, rather?
I would just say, to sum up, maybe experience from that and how we were feeling from that. So we have kind of a baseline of how we felt going into BlizzCon. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I think it was strange because normally when we do a show, right, we come in a day, maybe too early, and we rehearse a little bit, and then we do a show. And with most cons, they're getting longer and longer. It's like 3, 4, even 5 days for a con now. So usually your marathon is at the con, but this time we were there for 2 weeks total. So I mean, we had 3 days, 2 or 3 days before our opening week broadcast, and then we had 5 days after that, where we did nothing. Yeah,
it was 5 straight break days even before we even moved and then started rehearsals in Anaheim. So yeah, 5 full days off, which is crazy.
Yeah, which I was actually at the point of maybe having to fly back in between, and Blizzard was going to let me do that, to their credit, because I have a full-time job. I work at Twitch, and aside from misscliks and that, so I was kind of like, guys, I can't rationalize taking 5 days off and just hanging out in Anaheim or in Burbank. They were going to let me, but then I was like, you know what, I'm going to take some vacation days. It worked out that I just happened to be between projects, so I was able to take them, and I expected that to be a very relaxing 5 days after the opening week, but I didn't feel rejuvenated from that. Did you?
No. It was weird because both of us are introverts. So even though we love being around people and we love hanging out, it was strange that I didn't really feel like I was recharging even when I was just, I'm sorry, Probe. Even when I was just relaxing in the room. She wasn't a fan of
no!
there. It was very strange. I don't know if maybe it was just because we were constantly around people and felt like we needed to be hanging out with them since we had a limited time of being with them and wanted to see them, or after opening week, I know I was feeling very nervous about the whole thing because I wasn't super happy with how opening week went. I was happy with some aspects, but overall I was feeling like I could have had a better performance, and so I was nervous about that and feeling like, oh, I need to up it and do better at BlizzCon. And so I think there's just a lot of things that went into it, but maybe even just the fact that we were away from home for so long. And that was even, you had to be away for much longer because you were constantly, I'm going to turn you off. You were away like every weekend up until that too.
Yeah. This has been a huge marathon for me. I think it was like 5 or 6 weekends with maybe one in between that I wasn't working. So I was definitely coming off that. But it's a weird thing because Gilly and I talk a lot about this in terms of like the psychological side of our job and being an introvert or an extrovert or an empath, or what those things mean when you're working specifically in esports or when you're working in entertainment, because gamers have a certain psychological profile that's fairly common. Entertainment, like talent, has a certain psychological profile that's very common, and sometimes they really clash. It's really strange. So I feel like for me, I get a lot of energy out of a show day. Like really doing a show doesn't tire me out too much. I can go forever. But the rehearsals and the waiting and the practicing together really tired me out this time. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that. Like, why do I feel so kind of down or stressed or worried? And I got to thinking, and I think this is the theme of a lot of what I have to say about BlizzCon, and the reason that it's one of the best and one of the hardest I've ever done, like I tweeted, was because, and I would title it Growing Pains, because we are a brand new esport. We're a brand new crew. This is the first world championship we've ever done. We did a show match last year at BlizzCon, and that didn't feel like this. So why does this feel this way? And I was thinking back to when I first started in esports, thought, okay, maybe it's because a lot of our crew is, this is the first time they've really done a major event. So I'm thinking back to when I did my first major events in StarCraft, and did it feel like this? And I feel like back then, esports even, and broadcasting esports, were so new that we were all figuring it out. Nobody had it figured out, and it was like just flying by the seat of our pants all the time. But now there's an established standard for esports. There's a level of production that everyone's expecting. There's a level of talent that everyone's expecting. And also the game kind of rides on our shoulders, where we know that we have to put on a really good show because that's part of Blizzard's strategy to make this game succeed. I mean, like literally fail or thrive. And so there was a general feeling of like fear and angst around this broadcast that was natural because, like I said, it's growing pains. It's really good that we're feeling those things because it means we're putting a lot of care and a lot of work into this, and that we understand the stakes, and that this weighty, honorable responsibility is on us. But it also just, I don't know if I would call myself an introvert or an extrovert or some mixture of both, but definitely I am an empath. So when I'm around people that have this feeling of fear and angst, and I feel it too, it starts to just like really, really wear on me. So I don't want it to sound like I had a really bad time at BlizzCon, but it was the reason I want to share it, and I wanted to kind of get gritty, is I think that people, I mean, there's so many reasons, but one of them is that a lot of times you go online and you see feedback for broadcasters or for talent or for production crews and things where it's like very harsh. And I guess I want people to know how hard and how much people cared about this particular broadcast, how hard everyone worked, and how much it mattered to them, and how deeply it affected all of us. And I guess it was weird because I'm one of the more experienced people on that broadcast in terms of how many broadcasts I've done in esports.
Definitely.
And I never feel that same kind of stress anymore that I did at this broadcast. So I thought it was really interesting. And I know we talked a little bit about it, Gilly, but did you feel similarly at all?
Well, I don't really have any sort of baseline to go off of because this is the only esport that I've been so involved from the esports side in. StarCraft, it was just strictly as a viewer. So I have no baseline to go off of, and my stress is, I'm sure, for one, something that added to yours because I was stressed out because it was the biggest event I've ever done. And it's only the second live event I've ever done, and it was very scary. So, and like I said, I was going in from feeling like opening week was not my best performance, knowing that I said good things, but I was sick. It was a different event than I'd ever done before, and all I knew was that I needed and I wanted to make sure that I had a better performance at BlizzCon. So I don't know, I just had a lot of like personal angst, I guess, going in. And like I said, because we're both very empathetic people, I'm sure that rubbed off too. And I'm sure it was very similar for everyone because if you think about it, yes, there were some very experienced people there. Kylaris, Todd, and Grubby all have a lot of experience with other games, but it was still the first ever world championship for Heroes of the Storm. We have no idea really going in what plans are for the next year. We don't know how the game is going really. Like, there's a lot of unknowns, and I think a lot of the issues the issues of like how you felt probably stemmed from the fact that there are a lot of unknowns for what this game's going to become. Are we dedicating so much of our time to something that we don't really have a lot of security or like knowing what's going to happen in the future? So I'm sure that that's a lot of where it came from. But to your original question, yes, there was definitely a ton of stress. I just don't know how much of it was like self-inflicted and how much was the group overall. I know that there were a lot of things that helped alleviate that from opening week to the point we were at when BlizzCon started. One of the things was we actually had gotten asked to focus on specific story types from the higher ups at Blizzard, and you had the great idea to all of us sit down and share the knowledge we had of teams and how to like what stories we really wanted to develop for each team. And I thought that meeting was so great for helping us not only in the direction of the show and building those stories like the original idea, but just for us to come together as a group, as a talent group too. Yeah, was really good. And then even things like I had never casted with Kylaris before. We didn't even rehearse casting. So that cast, which I thought was really good, I'm very proud because we did not practice together at all. But what we did do was he and I sat down with Kubi as well, who was our analyst, and talked about what things we could be expecting in drafts. And we sat down and watched. We knew it was potentially going to be the rematch of Dignitas versus YL. So we also sat down and watched those VODs too. And things like that really helped, I guess, make it feel not so scary. I think sometimes you forget that there's other people up there. Like, we have you and we have other casters, and you sometimes, at least I do, I'll get up there and be like, oh my gosh, what if I have to fill for 2 hours? But it's like, you don't have to do it by yourself. There's all these people trying to help. Like, you came in and wanted to do the interviews when we had that long break, and then I came in and helped you at least find people to interview, and myself included. But I thought that was awesome of you to come up with that idea to help the casters out so they weren't just like sitting on the desk, and it brought variety and just the fact that we were a team and we have people to fall back on. Sometimes you forget that. Yeah,
I mean, I want to talk a lot about that first day of broadcast and even the rehearsal before that, but to give you guys just the whole behind the scenes experience. So we had those days off. Gilly and I actually went to Disneyland. Which was really fun. We actually, and this was kind of funny because it's like we wanted to spend a lot of time with everybody there, obviously, but we've never gotten to hang out just us two before, ever, we realized. And we've been
friends. Except on Skype.
Yeah, and we hang out on Skype all the time. but we just kind of realized that was like, we've been friends for a long time. We should get to have some time where we just spend just us. And it was amazing. I've gone to Disneyland a lot of times, but it was like a top-notch Disneyland trip. So we went to Disneyland. We did some relaxing stuff too. And then they moved us from Burbank to Anaheim. And we got installed in that hotel. And then we had half a day in Anaheim to relax and chill, and then we had 2 rehearsal days. So context to one of the stories I want to tell is that on that day off, when we were in Anaheim, Gilly and I both went in anyway to the venue because the writer of the show had asked me to come in to talk about the closing ceremony of the show. More context of the closing ceremony. Way back at the America's Championship, the closing ceremony took us like 2 hours to rehearse when it's a 2-minute piece of the show, you know. So there was a lot of opinions on how to do it, and there was a lot of discussion and a lot of like conflict. It was very strange to me because I'm used to like, I come in, there's a director and a producer and a writer. They have worked together and decided exactly what they want to do. They tell me what to do. I may give a little tiny bit of feedback, and then we do it. That's it. This was like the entire team was giving feedback at America's Championship. So to combat that, the writer of the show during opening week had asked me to talk about the closing ceremony, had me come in to talk about the closing ceremony for about an hour with Gilly on our day off. And then throughout the rest of the rehearsals, we talked about it multiple times, had another meeting with the entire cast to talk about it, and worked on it. So that's just context of something that was kind of weird that I was going through. And I don't want to skip ahead too much, but as an FYI, when we got to the closing ceremony, when I set foot on stage, they said, okay, this is how the closing ceremony is going to go. And I was like, hey, just heads up, this is different again from the 10 versions of the closing ceremony we've written. And I just wrote it 2 hours ago again. Are you sure this is what you want? So we were backstage, like, calling everybody who's an authority, like, at the very last minute being like, what do you actually want Anna to do? And the overall consensus was, just go out there and do something and make it work.
And that's not stress that you should have to deal with. Like, you should not have to deal with that stress.
Honestly, that is not that stressful to me.
No?
I actually,
okay, well, that's good.
If they had from the very beginning been like, hey, the team's going to be celebrating, there's going to be a trophy, just go out there and make sure that everything gets said and they get the trophy, then I would be totally fine with that.
Oh,
but it was,
that's good.
It was only stressful because it had been such a thing that I was so worried. And going back to that angst that this is like the first time this crew is doing this, we wanted Blizzard to be so happy. We wanted them to feel like every single thing they requested from us happened. And so that's what I was doing is I'm like, okay, here's the checkboxes you've asked of me. Do you want all of these checkboxes? And all of a sudden they were gone. So again, this is stepping forward, but that was one thing that was so weird the entire rehearsal. And we actually, like, I'll be super real. We actually had like some cast conflict about the closing ceremony where we got into kind of a heated conversation where, again, there's all these people that really want to prove themselves valuable to this broadcast because it's kind of like a big audition because it's the first time this has happened, and if they're going to make any change-ups next year, you know, we want to make sure we're really showing that we're strong and that they don't want to change any of us out or anything like that. So there was a lot of the, like, I've done a lot of esports broadcasts and I know this is the right way and I think this is the right way, and kind of like our tempers and our stress was so high that we actually did have a bit of a conflict around a round table. And I want to give big credit to Anya from Blizzard, who was one of the most amazing like mediators of that conflict, and she produced the show, and she was just always this calm influence looking for feedback from us, and that was amazing. And credit to all of our cast and crew, because those of us who did get in conflict ended up coming back and being like, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't need to get heated like that, and like, we're cool and I respect you. And I think for me, that was one of the turning points of our energy becoming very positive. Yeah. Like, we needed to get that out, and then and then we came back and kind of started like really trusting each other. Yeah. And then I don't know if you want to talk any more about rehearsals. Do you want to talk more about rehearsals?
No, I would just echo that. I see a lot of people like, oh, you couldn't tell that you guys were nervous. And we were still, at least from my perspective, I was still nervous, but there was something, you mentioned a turning point. There was something that happened somewhere around rehearsals where by the time we got to show day, like, things were clicking and we just felt good. And I was maybe nervous for a couple of minutes, but then once I was at the desk and going, like, it just melted away, and it was just having fun, which was an incredible experience. The same thing happened at Vegas. So I think there was just like, we just started clicking more as a team, and it just takes time when you're working with new people. We had like half of a new team from Vegas. It was different, so it was just kind of working out growing pains, like you said, of coming together. But there was definitely some time in there in the little meetings that we had together where we started to come together as a team, definitely.
And there was a lot to adjust to. You know, the team had changed from what we thought it was going to be. We thought Tasteless and Artosis were going to be part of our team. They weren't. Some people were in StarCraft and in Heroes of the Storm. Some people were
opening week.
Yeah, and just like analyst role versus casting role, and who was where and all that. Like, finally that kind of settled. And then I felt like on the first day of our broadcast, if you guys didn't watch, on Friday, we did the draft for the first game. Everything's going swimmingly. The broadcast is looking amazing. We're all feeling super hyped. And then there's an audio issue. And it's an important one. It's like a game-breaking one, so it has to be fixed. We cannot go on with the games until this audio issue is fixed. So luckily, we have this trio of very experienced casters up there, and they're just filling. They're just like, la la la, games, blah blah blah. And that was oh gosh, who was up there? Calaris, Grubby, and Todd. Yeah. So they're just, this is like very common fare for esports, you know, where it's like we have some sort of technological issue because there's so many computers and broadcast equipment and everything just all working together. So they start just filling, and I didn't even realize that an hour had gone by. And I just kind of started looking around. I was like, oh wow, they've been filling for an hour. They've been filling for an hour and a half, and I didn't even notice that happen. So I was like, major props, but like, are they okay? Because backstage, we're like, nothing's happening, you know? I'm sure someone over there is working on audio, but nothing else is happening. And usually at that point, that's where a broadcast team will throw to like a video montage, because there's just not, you know, people just can't handle much more filling than that. But these guys are just filling and filling. So backstage, we're on Twitter, because we have this Twitter message group, and we're like making jokes about filling, like, hey, Grubby, do you need to go to the dentist because it looks like you need some more fillings? And like, you know, just
I hope you like, what was it you said? I hope you like jelly donuts, because this show has a lot of filling.
I heard you like jelly donuts because you're really into filling.
There you go.
So there was a lot of filling jokes going on backstage, but I know Gilly had mentioned to me before, you had said something about like that you had thought about that being a possibility that might happen during the show, right?
I've been on so many shows now where there is a long fill at the beginning, and I am terrified that it's going to be me. That is the thing, number one thing I am terrified from casting is a long fill. But I always forget that you're not there by yourself. You are there with other people, and you can totally play off of them. And especially when you have a host who is as experienced as Calaris is, like, he said he was just racking his brains, like, what can I possibly ask these guys next? Like, we're going to go into other games. We'll come back to Heroes when we think of stuff. Like, they really did such an amazing job. But yes, it's just something that terrifies me.
Oh, and I skipped, so I'm trying to go chronologically. It's really difficult. But I skipped that you mentioned that meeting we had before the first day of broadcast. We all got together for lunch before the first broadcast, brought all our ideas for like what narratives and stories we wanted to follow. Because that was one of the feedback things we got from Blizzard, was they wanted us to talk about rivalries between the teams, and they wanted us to build up the stories of individual players. So we made so many spreadsheets this weekend, but we made a spreadsheet all together that was like, here's facts about this team, here's facts about what rivalries they might have, here's all the players, here's the roles they play, here's some facts about them. And we all agreed that we agreed on those things, because one of the worst things that can happen during a broadcast, especially as the host for me, is I'm separated from the casters, and I can't always listen to what they're saying. Most of the time I can, but sometimes I can't. So if I say something that is a story that they are not following or is contrary to the story that they've been presenting, one of us looks bad, and the audience will point it out for sure. So that was one of the coolest things that I, as a host, have gotten to do. And it instilled me with this like awesome feeling of confidence and a feeling of oneness that our team had, and a feeling of trust that if I threw something to them, they would pick it up and throw it back at me, kind of thing, because I knew what they were already thinking, and we had confirmed like, okay, we're all on the same page. So the reason I bring that up is that when I saw them doing all that filling, I was like, this is great, because all of them can predict some of the other things that the others want to talk about. And when I pick it back up after this 3-hour fill that I'm not listening to, I know for sure that I'm not going to contradict something that they said during that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Those poor guys. Too, like when you started to do interviews with people too, I had gone over, I don't know why, but I'd gone over past the desk to go backstage, and Grubby and Todd were just sitting by the desk. I was like, you guys need anything? You want some power bars? Grubby, of course, Grubby is like just so nice. He's like, no, I'm okay, I can wait. Todd was like, I could use a power bar. I was like, I'm already getting a power bar for this guy. Grubby, what do you want? He's like, okay, a power bar would be good. It's like, you guys just talked for like an hour and a half straight. Surely you are hungry. Surely.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you did that. And so, right when the fill had started, I had asked, do you guys want me to run out and do an interview or something? And they were like, no, don't worry about it. We're going to get it fixed. It's fine. And then Gilly had come back and she was like, why aren't you doing interviews? And I was like, you know what? You're right. It's been an hour and a half. I'm going to go ask again. So we went up and asked. They were like, sure, can you help us? Because the production team we're working with is not a gaming production team. It's an actual Hollywood entertainment production team, which we should talk about later, which is kind of, it has its coolnesses and its stresses too. But so luckily we have done this show for so long that we know a lot of influencers who were there. So Gilly and I just ran out in the audience and we were like, who do we see that we know? And we're tweeting people and stuff. And Gilly really helped me like find people to interview, and she'd bring them over to me. And so then we got to kind of throw things back and forth between me and the casters. But I haven't told you this yet, Gilly, but I remember when I was interviewing you, because I got to interview Gilly. Gilly was the last interview that we did, because they were like, who else should we interview? And I was like, well, how about one of our casters, because that's like, obvious. But I was thinking about how you mentioned that you're scared of filling, but you are so good at giving interviews. Like, your answers were so complete and so well spoken and so poised that for the record, I was like, okay, obviously Gilly could have been filling up there for just as long.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm sure someday, it's only a matter of time, right? Where I am the one who has to do it, pay my due. But I'm glad that you decided to do interviews and you let me help out in like scheduling them and like prepping them for you to interview them. So thank you for letting me do that, because watching them fill, like, these guys are doing great, but I am getting so anxious watching this right now. Like, what if I had to do this? This is terrifying. What if I have to do this? It happens again when I'm up there. So I was just like, I need to do something other than sit here and just bite my nails staring at them fill their lives. So I appreciate it.
It felt really good for us to have a little ownership too of the show, and like to help those guys. It felt like kind of a little rescuing, but all in all, the fill ended up being 3 hours. And they said
that's the longest they've ever done. Or Kalaris said it's the longest he's ever done, by the way. And he's been doing it for how many years?
Yeah. And Grubby came back after that because he was analyst, I think. And he came backstage and I was like, dude, are you exhausted? He was like, it was kind of fun, actually. He was just like, I'm Grubby, I had a good time. Like, just not worried about it at all. Because he streams, so he'll sit there and talk alone for hours already about the game, so.
Yeah. Kalaris was supposed to do an analysis, actually, for Babel and his cast right after. And thankfully, they had, like, said, okay, Kubi, you're going to do him for both of the last 2 series, because James is probably tired because they had to cast. Like, he had a cast after that.
Right after.
Like, no, he and Todd, I guess. Yeah. After doing all that, to have to bring hype and cast, man, such MVPs.
I know, I was convinced that their cast was going to suffer. Because I was like, how could you do a cast that's, like, energetic after talking for 3 hours? And I could not tell the difference at all. They were such pros. I can't give them enough props for that. That was awesome.
Agreed.
So moving through the rest of the day, I think just some insight into how those shows went. I had something to talk about from opening weekend or opening week. I don't know. I forgot. But to give you some insight into how that works, a lot of people have asked me, you know, is what you say scripted? Do you have things prepared beforehand? What was cool is that they kind of gave us an option of what we wanted to do, but opening and closing for me were scripted because they wanted specific things said and covered. So I had a teleprompter for those things, and some of the specific statements Blizzard wanted to make. The trophy part, you probably could tell, was scripted because they wanted me very specifically to say certain things about the trophy. And that's just how it goes. And I hope you guys didn't mind because I thought it was fun.
It was interesting.
Yeah, transitioning in and out of being scripted is really interesting too, because you have to make it feel natural to be impromptu and scripted together, which sometimes a change in tone can be difficult.
Yeah.
But I felt pretty good overall about the performance, and the stuff that I did impromptu was interviews, introductions I did impromptu, pretty much everything else other than a few of those Blizzard things. And that felt really good for me because as someone who put a lot of time into wanting to be a caster for Heroes of the Storm, it let me kind of join the conversation that the casters were having about what they thought of the teams and the stories they were telling about the teams, and also let me ask really questions that were really interesting to me as a Heroes of the Storm player too in the interviews. So I had a lot of fun with that. And it was the interviews you mentioned that I was gonna talk about. During opening week, we were so behind as well. We ended our broadcast really, really late on our opening week broadcast. But what they usually do during esports broadcasts is if things go late, they cut interviews. It's like the first thing they cut. And then they'll cut back other things. But there's not a whole lot you can cut from an esports broadcast because you have to have the whole game, you know?
Yeah.
But I actually, on the first day of our broadcast, I went to them and I said, hey, we're behind and I know you're going to want to cut interviews, but I'm worried because Blizzard has told us they want to develop these player stories and they want us to develop these rivalries. And I know I'm the host, so this sounds self-serving, but I would really like to do some interviews today because I want to make sure we accomplish what Blizzard wants from us. And to their credit, it was Anya and Bernd, both from Blizzard, talking to me about this, and they were like, you know, we're really behind, we're really worried about it, but that's really good feedback for us, let's talk about it. And then they didn't get back to me, but they never canceled another interview after that, and we got to do those no matter how behind we were. And I felt so honored that that feedback was taken. I thought it meant so much to me to get to ask those questions, and I thought that it really added to our broadcast. Although that, I mean, obviously since it was my feedback, I thought it added to our broadcast. I hope that doesn't sound too self-serving, but it was yet another thing where I felt really blessed to be working with the people we were working with, because in a lot of actual entertainment circumstances, I wouldn't have been able to give that feedback and it wouldn't have been listened to.
Yeah, I definitely think that we needed to have those interviews as well. So they really added to it. Plus the fact that you guys couldn't see, but Anna takes very detailed notes of the matches backstage too. She has all of the notes, in fact, from the drafts too, which is very nice because I like to have those notes. It's a necessity to have those notes because you want to recall drafts that were picked earlier in the tournament. And when I'm casting, it's just very difficult for me to try to jot down. I know that some people do it while they're casting, but I don't feel like I can do both. And so I would miss complete drafts because it's the series that I'm casting. So I was very fortunate that you let me use your notes as well to be able to get those drafts too, because it saved me time when it came down to, you know, I was casting a team that I'd casted prior, so I didn't have their drafts. So Anna takes like super detailed notes, and then she would often come up with like really good technical questions. She always wanted to have, you know, good technical questions instead of just like more generalized ones too, so that the interviews still had some merit for people who are maybe trying to learn the game as well too. So I was really glad that they decided to keep those in because of that, and because, you know, like you said, they had mentioned to us specifically wanting to build storylines, they were looking at this as a world championship, yes, but Blizzard was also looking at beyond, the players beyond, the rivalries beyond. So that's the reason why they focused on those two things, because those are things we can carry into next year. So now we know, like, oh, you know, Bakery's a standout, amazing support player. So people are already, you know, my brother, who is not he likes watching me stream. He watches me stream every day, but is not like into the hero scene. He was like, man, I want Cloud9 to win, but that bakery guy is awesome. That's a direct, like right there, that is showing the stories, and like working on that is working, because he doesn't watch normally. He doesn't know the EU teams at all. He's lucky to know the NA teams, because mostly he just watches my streams. So the fact that we were able to hammer home, like, this guy plays a mean Carzzy. I mean, he texted me and he was like, he plays a really good Carzzy. I was like, I know, we've been telling you that. So those interviews were very important. I think it was awesome that you were able to, you feel comfortable enough with them to talk to them, and the fact that we know that they have people who really want to listen to that feedback. And like you mentioned, Anya is incredible.
The amount of chill and peace that Anya has, I hope she watches this, or someone tells her, someone from Blizzard is watching. She just is like, in all the angst, she was one of the bright stars of calm that I found backstage. And she felt so deeply about this broadcast, so I know that must have been hard for her to be that beacon of chill. So thank you, Anya. You know, but yeah, you're right. And actually, the note taking thing is worth mentioning. A lot of casters take really good notes, and Gilly actually has a note card holder. You'll see her carrying that around. She has note cards for every team. I
gotta get that because it's Heroes themed. Hold on.
Yeah. I'll tell them where you got it while you look for it.
Okay, yeah, good.
So Jackal and Geller, another shout out for great people from Blizzard, was our talent manager handler at the Americas Championship. She's just amazing. She takes such good care of us. She's so much fun, and another beacon of chill. And she saw Gilly she had a note card holder, and Gilly was like, I want one of those. I need one of those. Jacqueline just gave it to her, I think, right? She gave you?
I stole hers. Did you say that?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I stole hers at Vegas, yeah. And so she was like, see, Steve has something for you that I wanted to send with them because I'm not going to be there for opening week. She made me this amazing note card holder, this Tyrael on one side, and then Baby Brightwing on the other. It's like, oh my gosh, the amount of notes. Let's see if I can find all of the notes from BlizzCon and opening week. There's quite a few, because I would like rewrite stuff, and then I wanted to have like notes specifically related. These are all my note cards that I ended up doing for BlizzCon opening week, because I would end up redoing one specific for like, this is Wild versus Dignitas, so that way I could take it up and like have notes specifically related to the rivalry that we talked about between them taken up, and be able to like recall things quickly. But yeah, I like note cards. They're very useful.
You should see the amount of materials between Gilly and I that we came up with for this week.
Did you tell them about the spreadsheet?
No.
You made and all the formulas off of your... I input the data, but Anna did far more because it was based off of her notes, and then she made formulas. I am Excel illiterate, so I was very taken aback. We had a study session, Gilly and I together, based on the drafts, and Gilly gives herself too little credit because she absolutely helped with making the spreadsheet. But then I added a whole bunch of formulas to tell us like the percentage of games in which this hero was picked, the percentage of games in which they were banned, the percentage of times that they were picked or banned, the percentage of when they were picked, the just everything imaginable you could think of, so that when we were on stage we could say definitively, this hero was only picked twice and it has a 50% win rate, or this hero was picked 7 times and has a 33% win rate, so we can't figure out why people keep, etc. And actually, I have that spreadsheet, and I'm planning on finishing it with the notes that I took from BlizzCon Actual, so that I can give it to you guys in the community if you want to check out like what the pros picked and stuff. So keep me accountable for that. I tried to do it at work today, but I had to, actually work, so I didn't get that done. But I will try. It was really cool. Like, we saw some really interesting stats because of that come out. Like you said, 100% pick or ban for Uther, but yet 33% win rate at the end of opening week. It was like, why is he 100% then? And teams notice those things and see shifts too, so it helped us anticipate shifts that were coming. Like, Tyrael has a 100% win rate and always picked Sync. Are we going to see more Tyraels in BlizzCon? So we could kind of predict. I felt like I was seeing the future, or I was in the Matrix maybe. From being able to see that stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And overall, I think production-wise, it was a really interesting thing that we were working with, like I said, this entertainment Hollywood company that was producing our show. And there were some, how would I say it? There was some friction because there were a few people who have worked in esports for a long time and are used to the way that an esports broadcast goes. And then there were some people who have never worked in esports before and are used to the way a professional TV broadcast goes. And there are differences between those two things. And so there were some conflicts there. And I thought it was really interesting because my personal opinion is that entertainment is a necessary industry for esports to meld with. I think that, I mean, when you think of traditional sports, TV broadcasts, it's an entertainment franchise. It's not just a subculture if it's going to succeed. So in my opinion, it was always like, well, let the production team who does live TV broadcasts tell us how to do this thing, because we need their expertise in order to help our small little subculture become something more, something of a big industry. But there were people who disagreed with me, and there are certainly instances where that wasn't true, but I was surprised at how much pushback the production team would sometimes get. What did you think of that?
There were definitely some. It was, I think, the concern from the casting desk specifically came in when it was like, do they drive the production or do we drive the production? Like, do they call something up and we talk about it, or do we call something up on our time and then they have it ready to bring it up? And so that, I think that tended to be the point of contention for a lot of the things, was flow because of that. I think they were very much used to the former, them calling things up and us reacting to that. And we as esports had more, I guess, experience with the latter, where we are going to talk in our own time. And if we mention the bracket, then that's when you bring the bracket up.
Right.
So that was, I think, the main contention thing. And I don't really know what the right answer is. I think that we've done it for a certain way a long time, and that maybe makes it difficult to adapt, but at the same time we can learn a lot from working with production crews too. So I think it's one of those things, growing pains, learning a lot from each other and trusting each other. We had this big talk about trust each other in the different subsystems and having them work together like cells to make this organism that is the Heroes of the Storm World Championship.
Yeah, I will say, to your point, that a lot of the conflict was not because of thinking someone could do it better, but because there was a lot of mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes made, and I think in esports, the way a broadcast is generally run, like you said, is that you have talent and you tell them go, and they just do, you know, and then you cut when they're ready to cut. So we're all used to working very impromptu, very from the seat of our pants, from our own expertise, and then all of a sudden you have teleprompters, you have telestrators, you have scripts written, you have, you know, all of this stuff, and then there are things that can go wrong. You know, there are wrong scripts in the teleprompters, there are different cameras coming on than the ones you expected, and those are things that are normal in a TV broadcast, but that we have never had to overcome, and we're used to a different set of problems. So to your point, it is growing pains, and not necessarily that like we should have listened more to the production crew, because it was more just we need to figure out how to work together.
Yeah.
But I would say I think that it was an amazing broadcast overall. The feedback I got was great. The casting was impeccable. Especially the last game you casted was like movingly good. I was so impressed by your casting in the last game. Ugh. Guys, I fangirl out about Gilly's casting so much, and I specifically mentioned to her that I love when she gets kind of in that lower register of her voice and gets really like science-y about Heroes of the Storm. It just gets me going, and it does. And she and so you were like, okay, thanks. And I always don't want to like say things to you right before you go on stage, because it's I don't want to influence you because you're so good at what you do. It's like I don't want to give you feedback that changes anything you do because it's already so good. But I had to say that. And then that match that you did was the perfect mix of like hype Gilly and then like sultry science Gilly, and then like it was so good. And
Halloween
like witty repartee with Caleris. It was just so good. Yeah.
Thank you. It felt really good. Both of them felt awesome, but that Murky game too was cool because Kubi and I watch Cloud9 scrim. We had watched them scrim a lot. We've seen them run that comp before, and we know the map they ran it before, which was Cursed Hollow. So already we're like seeing some picks. We see the Abathur pick and we're like, this, we know where this is headed. And then we can see, because they were doing the drafts beforehand just to limit the amount of time, like technically that it would take, because sometimes drafts can take a very long time, and they wanted to limit time where possible, especially because we were sharing a stage. We could see the pick and we knew it was there, and like we see it and we look at each other and we just have like this moment of we both knew that it was coming and it was there, but let's not, it was just like we knew, we were like, let's not have that call, right? Because sometimes you want to have that call because you feel really good if something comes up that you called and you're like, yeah, I knew what that team likes to play. But this was the moment where it needed to be, Murky came up and we were like, whoa! It had to be that way. And so we like see it, we look at each other and we're like, yeah, we know. Nothing is said. But I was like, that's a really great moment where you can have kind of these like non-verbal conversations. That's the I don't know, the mindset you want to be in with a co-caster anyway. You understand, like you and I, even when we cast together, not physically together, we can like just tell what the other is thinking and feeling. And when you are casting with people that you don't know as well, that is where the angst, the nervousness comes in, because you don't feel as comfortable with that. You're not quite knowing when to pick up from them, and when if they'll pick up from you. It's like a dance almost. It really is like a dance. And so to start to have those moments with these people it always makes you feel really good. Or like when you like say the same thing at the same time, you're like, yeah, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah, I'm thinking what you're thinking. You're like, yeah, this feels really good. And you get all pumped about that. Like, it's so good.
Grubby was actually saying to me something really interesting too, especially after we had spent so much time talking about story as a group. He came back and he was like, I realized in esports a lot of times it's about a caster making the right call and then feeling like he's really smart and, getting that honor. But I think that we've evolved to this place, and he didn't put it this way, but we're almost like actors in this show more than we're necessarily ourselves. And he was like, I decided just to commit to some things as predictions that I didn't necessarily believe, but just for the sake of the story, I'm going to say, I'm sure that this team is going to win, or I'm sure that this team is going to pick that. So then I can be surprised, or I can be ashamed, or I can be excited, or I can be those things along with my audience. And I thought that was so perceptive, and I think it's important too for the audience to recognize. I mean, the mantra is always, first of all, when you give feedback online, especially in our space, you're talking to real people who will see your words. So be gentle, first of all. And then second of all, recognize that this is an entertainment production, and that they're doing their job if they're telling a cool story and being hype about it. Not necessarily if they always say exactly the right thing that is happening in the game. I thought that was a really perceptive way for Grubby to put it, and he had a really good time with it. Like, I noticed he had a lot of fun after that.
He was having a lot of
He was almost like trolling. He'd be like, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say that so-and-so is the best this player in the entire world, and I'm just going to see what happens,
That was a nice thing, too, when we knew that we needed to build up personal stories, and so we were like, at this very moment, they could be. So why don't we just say that and go for it? Because it builds up hype for that person, and at the heart of it, that's what all of us in the talent team want, is we want to help you guys and the fans of Heroes get to know the teams and the players more, because that's what's going to grow the scene. It's having these personalities that you get behind, like Dunk's Choo Choo. Like we love Dunk, right? Because not only that, but now we've seen his mom say, "Don't blow it."
That was so funny. Oh my gosh! If you guys missed that, Dunk Train's parents were in the audience. And I actually, after this, I came back to Gilly and I was like, by the way, if Cloud9 doesn't win now, we have blown it, because we are telling the victory story of Dunk Train. But his parents were in the audience. We got them to do an interview with me. His dad, I'm like, is there anything you want to say to your son before he goes into battle? And his dad's like, just keep fighting, son. We know you can do it. We're here for you. And the crowd starts cheering. And his mom grabs the microphone and she goes, don't blow it. And she was like the sweetest lady. It wasn't mean sounding at all. It was just this very emphatic, like, don't blow it, son. You know, she's just this beautiful lady. So it was like, I don't think a lot of people heard it, but I was laughing so hard. So funny. Ugh.
It was really good.
That got me right in the feels too.
She's hilarious.
Because it's weird how few parents come to esports events. Mm-hmm. For a few reasons. Some parents don't support it. Some just don't get it. Some can't. You know.
Yeah, they're like, good for you, we're proud of you, but not my thing.
And then some parents, a lot of times it's too expensive or hard or whatever to come to these events. So I felt this way when Gilly's mom came and was watching her at the America's Championship, and I felt this way watching Dunk Train's parents watch him, where you see this, like, that's my son or daughter up there, and I'm, like, so proud of them. And being in esports long enough that reaction is something I crave. It's like, oh, it gets me just right in the feels, you know?
Here.
Oh, yeah. It was so good. And Dunk Train, by the way, is a very emotional guy, and he had already kind of teared up on me a couple times when I had asked him things. Like, I think when I asked him, I feel like I asked him a question during the semifinal interview that was something like, you know, how proud are you of your team right now or something, and he kind of had the like like he got like a little misty-eyed and stuff. And behind the scenes too, to give you guys some insight, Dunk is like a support in real life. Like, we went to his room to hang out with him and the rest of the team, and he's like bustling around like, how are you feeling, are you okay, I'm supporting you in real life, I'm gonna go get you a drink. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really amazing to see them, and we had lots of girlfriends there too cheering on. Jilly was there, she had like her face painted, she had Cloud9 and fingernails.
Yeah.
King Caffeine's girlfriend, by the way, like, that was really epic. We even saw her on camera once, and it was like, we had lots of really good support. My brother was there and sister-in-law.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So now I had my mom at Vegas, my brother and sister-in-law at an event. That's pretty crazy, but yeah, it's really cool to, I don't know, to be at the beginning of this and be able to help shape that and help build the love of the players. Like, it feels very special to me that I get to be a part of that and help shape that, and it makes me want to do it like even more. We really were trying to focus on, you know, all of the casters were from the for the Americas region or from the European region, so we really sat down and we're like, what can we say about these teams? What can we say about Braveheart? Braveheart played so freaking well. Like, what can we say about these players? SCSC from the Korean team, from DK. Oh my gosh! Hello, his Arthas is nuts. So it makes me want to just keep doing it and hope that we keep getting people in who just love these players the way that we love them, because we've gotten to hang out with them in real life. They're all amazing. They're all super fun to be around.
I want to give a shout out to Team DK, by the way, as the host and as we talk about so much storytelling stuff, because DK comes from this legacy of pro gaming, right? And they understand what makes an entertaining esports broadcast. And so in their video, they said things like, we think all of our competition was in Korea. We're not worried at all about any of these teams. We're going to beat them all. And they said it in a way that painted them as these cocky villains. And that story came through the rest of the tournament in such a compelling and awesome way that it was so fun to watch and listen to and see develop. And I would wager, I didn't talk to them about this because I can't speak Korean other than to say, like, do you want food or something like that. But
where's the bathroom?
Yeah. I didn't ask them, but I would wager that they said that because they wanted to entertain you, and that they kind of put pride aside to do that. And so I think that was really, really cool, because they know they take a huge risk when they do that, you know, that if they don't win, they look even worse. And I'm sure that they don't feel great about their performance to begin with, but I think I just thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, I agree. They understand that it's more than just answering the questions. It's about putting off a persona, and I think it was a cool persona that they put off, and I was very glad that they did that, because you're right, that was like the one interview we really jumped on. We jumped on maybe certain things that other people said, but that was the one interview that we were like, oh, they said other teams should just have fun. Everyone said that, because it was such a great, compelling interview to jump on and use parts from, and I was really happy with that too. I really hope that my hope is that teams would be able to develop those personalities, especially the people who are giving interviews more, whether it's like media training or just like a serious sit down and like how do we want the feel of our team, the personality of our team to be, and how can I convey that more? And I think that'll really help get fans of the teams as well.
You're totally right. And another thing that I thought was really important for the development of the scene was that, you know, we're talking about Koreans. Both of us come from StarCraft. We've seen so many tournaments where it's just Korean after Korean, which is cool. They're amazing, and it's awesome that their country supports pro gaming the way it does and produces such amazing athletes. But we need hometown heroes so bad for esports to thrive here in North America. And to have a European North American final was so good for our scene. It was so good for our scene. It was just exactly what we needed. And a North American world champion is rare. I mean, it's happened, I believe, in World of Warcraft. Yes, it has happened in World of Warcraft. But aside from that, I don't think there's ever been a North American champion at BlizzCon. I'm going to say, at least not in StarCraft. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
I think somebody put that it was only in Warcraft.
Yeah.
Have we ever had a North American champion?
Yeah.
So guys, we did it.
Yeah.
We did that work. Not Cloud9 so much.
Yeah. Just kidding. We did it. But it was so good for our scene narrative wise. Same thing for Europe. I would posit that it was really, really good for the European scene as well. And there's just a need to be able to cheer on your hometown teams, and not necessarily for North America or Europe to win all the time, but to feel as a fan that my region has a fighting chance, and that because of that I should participate more because somehow I can help them by cheering them on. And if I'm an aspiring pro gamer, maybe I can be a pro gamer too because someone from near me was a pro gamer. It's just really good all around. It's so good.
Was Firebat from America?
Oh, maybe. Was he? I thought he was European. But see, I don't follow Hearthstone very well.
I know.
This is a Heroes of the Storm show.
I thought it was really cool for Europe, too, that we had a team who got obliterated by another team be able to have their revenge at BlizzCon to get to go to the finals. That was really neat. Although I felt, bad for Na'Vi, especially because everyone was like, Na'Vi, you're going to take BlizzCon after opening week. It was like, whoa! Yeah,
Schwimpy. They were the team that had to wait through that really long delay, Na'Vi Dignitas.
Yeah, that's right.
And Schwimpy was like very noticeably distraught backstage. Like he was sitting with his head in his hands before the match even started. So I don't know if it had to do with the delay or if he was already in a bad spot or if he knew that they were going into a match they couldn't win, because those teams know each other so well. I don't know, but he was definitely very distraught. So I do feel sorry for Na'Vi because I know they really wanted to put up a better performance than they did. But I also know those two teams really love each other and genuinely are happy for each other, so.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right, that we run into technical delays. Like, we also had the issue in America's Championship where Cognitive was really ahead in the game, or, like, in a good place with the game, and then, like, a delay changes the mindset of teams, too. Even, I talked to King Caffeine backstage, like, an hour into the delay, and I was like, how are you guys doing? Are you feeling okay? I know this sucks. He was like, man, this is tough. I just really want to play. I want to get out there and play. When you get into the mindset of like, okay, it's time, it's go time, this series and I'm going, and then it's like, why are we waiting? Why are we waiting? It's definitely, that's where your experience with these types of events and just your, I guess, the mental capacity of gamers comes in even more, being able to keep a good mindset when things like that happen, whether it's a 3-hour delay before you finally get to play your series or a 10-minute delay mid-game. It really tests the tenacity of people as players.
Totally. Well, guys, we've been talking for a little bit more than an hour, and our show normally goes about an hour and a half-ish. And again, just as a reminder, normally this is not the format of our show. This is kind of just our chance to chill out with you and be nostalgic and talk about our experience at BlizzCon. So I want to remind you, as we kind of go into the last closing time of our show, if you have questions for us, things that you want to ask about from BlizzCon, we will be very candid, especially because we have no guests here right now to make feel uncomfortable. So you can ask us anything before we end. But I guess I wanted to ask you, Gilly, like a highlight moment from BlizzCon first, and then after we talk about our highlight moments, I would want to, and it doesn't have to be one, a couple highlight moments, and then also some things that we would want to improve for next BlizzCon, that we would hope go better for next time.
Well, okay, we'll get to that. Highlight moments. Non-con related, going to Disneyland.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Like, us going to Disneyland was awesome. Our group trip that we did to Disneyland was also pretty awesome too afterward. We had like a huge group, but then we would like split off but come together for some things like Star Tours. We probably made the few people with us very angry because we were yelling random things and like not had an entire conversation with people having dinner while we were in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's pretty funny too, asking them about their steak and stuff. But yeah, like our Disneyland trip was really amazing. I got mouse ears. The con specific related, I loved meeting everybody. That's of course amazing. Both the series that I got to cast, I was incredibly proud of. And that meeting that we had all together discussing stories was really important to me, as well as the continuation of that, like you said, the lunch before we went on, just really started to make us feel like a team. The final time that I walked backstage and then I'm gonna get teary-eyed and like walked out and the desk was there and like World of Warcraft was done and I just like looked at the desk and I was like, holy crap, I just cast BlizzCon. Like that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I just did this. This is like a pipe dream. My dream was just to cast, and then I got to do BlizzCon this year and like looked at the casting desk, so I took a picture of it. I was like, thank you, desk, for being such an amazing desk to be at. I think things randomly, like random inanimate objects.
Hey, I do the same thing. I feel you.
Like the Heroes Hype, like I said, meeting people, Heroes Hype meetup was amazing. Playing Cho'Gall with you.
That was awesome.
That was really awesome.
I want to do that more.
We will. Yeah, there's so many. It's hard. I'm sure I'm missing things too.
That's a good list. That's a lot of the things I was going to say too. Okay. It's weird how impactful that one meeting we had was, that we all sat down and worked together. I think it was because it was not required. We as a cast had to fight to have that time to meet together and talk about that, and it was very like we took ownership of it. It was just so positive, and the amount of agreement and collaboration we had together as people who care about this thing, that was just really cool. Dang it, I had another one that wasn't on your list and now I can't remember it. No. The Heroes Hype meetup was really cool because we've had, and by Heroes Hype, it's the like Heroes Hype Eye on the Storm TGN Squadron meetup. Yes. And usually it's the Heroes Hype Eye on the Storm meetup, but the Heroes Hype meetup, because it's really Eunice Chen that's behind all of this amazing community work. But she actually couldn't come to BlizzCon this year, so she messaged us. She's like, I screwed up, I can't come. Do you want me to help plan a meetup? And we put so much less work into that meetup than we normally do to make those things happen. And we were like, oh, well, if not that many people can come, it's fine. We're already like 3 hours late. Like, oh, well, we'll do our best. We'll see a few friends. Like, we know that our friends from the scene will come. And way more people showed up this BlizzCon than last BlizzCon, because people were looking for a meetup to like hang out and see each other and everything. And that was a huge highlight of mine. And I was there for like a very short amount of time. We got to say hi to everybody. Everyone was there. Everyone was excited. So it just keeps building this feeling I have that the Heroes community is very special and very committed and very positive. And I think that's really important to me. Another thing, Dustin Browder, Mike Morheim, Amy Morheim, all of them at different points congratulated us as a team. And to me, Chris Ziggity as well. These are VIPs at Blizzard. Basically, they are Blizzard. Yeah. And they all at some point or another came up to us and told us that they were thankful and proud of us as a team. And to me, that was like, that's what makes me teary-eyed, is these are people that they make our livelihood. They make Jeff and my livelihood. And they were a large part of why Jeff and I Jeff and my story, and of my getting together with Evil Geniuses, and the fact, and where I'm working now. I mean, those people made the game that brought me to this point. So to have those people impressed and thankful for something I contributed in return. Jeff and I talk a lot about giving back and saying thank you for what they have given to us, and so to have that confirmed was a huge deal to me. And I'm excluding a lot of people that also said thank you. Those were just the first ones that came to mind. So all of you at Blizzard who took the time to come and say thank you, that have been a part of Blizzard and of making StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm and all of these games that have been so impactful to us. It meant a lot to me that it meant something to you, you know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I like came off the desk with Babel and like went and I did one of these, like actually just cheering in the backstage, and like Zoya started like laughing and cheering along with me, and I'd like turn around and Dustin Browder's right there and he like shakes my hand and he was like, awesome job out there, and I was like, thank you, and turn around and just cried. Like, thank you so much. I have to go to the bathroom right now. And like bathroom too, right before I went on for my first set, I went to the bathroom and Anya was in there and I was like, oh hey, and she just like gave me a pep talk and was like, I'm getting a pep talk from someone from Blizzard, like that's so cool. So you're right, the Blizzard people have been crazy supportive and very appreciative to us while we're appreciative to them, and that's this crazy feeling, and it means a lot to us to know that they care about you know, how we feel about the game and the time that we're putting in. It makes all the difference. I thought of another moment too on Thursday night when I went into the Hilton, like all of Squadron was right there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many I hadn't met. I hadn't met Pure Shield and Rui and Average Adam, and they were just all standing right there, and I was like, hello team, and that was pretty cool too. So yeah, just we got to meet so many awesome people. A lot of you guys too were wearing Storm shirts. Every time I saw one of those on, I was like, I might cry. That was crazy.
The best thing ever. I don't know why it impacts me so much to see someone wearing our shirt, but it does. It just makes me feel like $1,000,000. Yeah. So thanks to those of you who bought the shirts and wore them. It was amazing. And all the other misscliks shirts too. I saw a lot of misscliks shirts. Yeah. Actually, I saw a couple of you. I saw Cattle Prod just now in chat. I saw a couple of you rocking the misscliks shirts from the TwitchCon random tiny meetup that we did, where we just dispersed a lot of these shirts that we had of misscliks logos and like old misscliks Scurvy Dog stuff and everything. So I saw you. I appreciated that as well.
Anna, what about opening ceremony? We had some really good memories.
That's what it was! I was telling you there was something else that I was like, it wasn't on your list, but it was my favorite. It was opening ceremony. Oh my gosh, you guys. I was a mess during opening ceremony. I was a mess. So you can tell that I'm feeling very nostalgic about StarCraft. I think it has to do with like Legacy of the Void. It's all coming to a close, and Jeff and I... Huh?
Is that I know I can't even talk about
it. And it's been such a huge part of Jeff and my life, and Jeff and I have had a really landmark year, and it's just very like weighty on me. And they opened with this StarCraft retrospective at the very beginning. It was about like 10 minutes in, and I was doing the like, I was like, I'm not gonna be embarrassing. I'm not gonna be one of those people that's like one of those like you know, like I'm not gonna ugly cry. So I was like, I was doing a really good job of controlling my facial features, but big fat tears just rolling down my face. So I'm like focusing everything I can on just like my face not moving, and just tears like dripping off my chin, guys. Like not just like a tear, like it was. And Gilly looks over at me and she's like, oh, and then I'm like, don't look too close, I'm really embarrassingly crying a lot.
We had a photographer too,
who
was concentrated, like only sitting and taking pictures anytime our area had a reaction, because we were sitting with like Jake and Kubi as well, and I was sitting with my friend that I always sit next to. I see him, he's in chat, Lord of Ascension. I always sit by him at the opening ceremonies because we had like a moment together last year with the StarCraft when Legacy of the Void was announced. So like there was a lot of emotions happening in this group, and like constantly anytime there was a reaction, like all of a sudden the photographers are taking a picture. I was like, let me just feel this, please.
It was really funny because we actually realized we were the only crew, like the only cast that didn't have to be on stage right then, because we were sharing our stage with World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft was on and like ready to go in the morning, and then our broadcast was in the evening. So we were the only like talent crew that was all sitting together. So anytime Heroes of the Storm, anything related to Heroes of the Storm or StarCraft, because a lot of us come from StarCraft, happened, we were freaking out, and we were this big section. So it felt like opening ceremony was like catered to us.
Yeah.
But you were right about the photographer, and actually a really hilarious moment. I have been, ever since Overwatch was announced, my first thought was like, oh my gosh, Tracer, please, in Heroes of the Storm. Please put Tracer in Heroes of the Storm. I'm just so madly in love with her. I have a huge crush on her. Oh my gosh. And I, you know, there's been like talk, oh, eventually, yeah, she'll probably be in the game, whatever. And they just like juked us. They like super surprised us with the fact that Tracer was going to be in the game, because they'd already covered Heroes of the Storm. We'd already gotten really excited. We'd had a lot of those moments like, you know, and the photographer's right there like trying to catch our movements, and knew that we were the Heroes of the Storm team. So they were kind of leaving us alone during Overwatch. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. New addition. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And then they were like, and Tracer's in the game. And I literally screamed and fell out of my chair and curled up in the fetal position. I'm not proud of this. This wasn't like Anna's putting on a show to try to get attention. I swear to you, this was like my guttural reaction of just like not being able to control my body because I'm such a freaking fangirl. And I was
like, Anna's on the floor.
And it's like, you know, you look at that girl who does that and you're like, ugh, what an attention hog. Like, what, she's just like trying to make a scene. I was not trying to make a scene. The only other time I've ever reacted like that was when the new Star Wars trailer came out. But I digress. Anyway, the photographer who had gone over to another section saw that, and I was like, oh crap, photographer. Yeah. And I like got up and sat back in my chair and was like, and then the photographer got there right as, and he like clicked a half-hearted like, dang it, I missed it, and then walked away again. I was like, haha.
That jerk, I know. I'd be like, oh god, and what is my face right now as the photographer? But it was fun to all get to sit together and freak out. I loved Jake's fiance so much. She kept yelling at him too because he would freak out and scream. You know, be like, "Oh, I'm so pumped about this," and she would be like, "Jake, you're gonna wear your voice out. Scream in falsetto if you have to." So he looks over at Kubi and he's like, "Apparently, we're supposed to freak out in the falsetto because it's not bad for your voice." It's like, these voices are so.
Oh my gosh. I would also, like, speaking of Kubi, by the way, Kubi was another... Spoopy.
Spoopy.
Kubi was another beacon of calm. I want to give him mad props because he was just very positive to be around the whole weekend, even in the midst of a lot of stress. And I know that, like, I know he felt it too, but he was very warm and welcoming to everybody during the whole time. I want to give him mad props for that.
And his face is amazing in the picture that Billy posted.
I didn't look at
you. Force one.
Oh yeah,
although
yeah.
Todd's face is my favorite. Hands down. Grubby's looks scary, but Todd is like ready to hop in a boy band.
If you guys are wondering what picture, I think that picture is kind of all over. It's on my Instagram. It's on Gilly's Twitter. It's everywhere.
It's so
cool. Oh, there. She put it there.
We do have some questions.
Oh, yeah. I saw one from Ishtara, and then I didn't see a whole lot of other ones. What were yours?
I'm going to leave this one to last because it's from Matt Wilshire, and it's very loaded. But one, did you ride the Matterhorn? I did. In fact, I know, Anna, did you actually ride it with us, or did you have to leave?
I did ride it at one point, but it was not with you.
Okay. I knew that you had to take off, but Matterhorn accomplished. Done. So proud.
Was it so scary? Did you get scared?
It. I didn't
by
get
the
scared,
Yeti? I always get scared by the Yeti.
I loved it. I had no idea what to expect. Nothing. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed the ride.
Nice.
Thoughts on Tempo Storm?
Who are these from? Do you know?
No, I am sorry, guys. I apologize. I always
You guys
forget.
claim it in chat if it was yours.
Yes. Thoughts on Tempo Storm?
Ooh, we have so many thoughts.
I would just say that it's unfortunate that it took real life experience to learn the lesson on something that they needed to improve on within the competition, which is the team locking, roster locks. It's unfortunate for the team who had to be the experience. It's at least nice that it is something that they are definitely aware of now, they being Blizzard, and that hopefully what'll come out of this is that the issue, of course it will be. Blizzard will look at it and they will do their best to mitigate that in the 2016 hero stuff, because that's what Blizzard does. They do listen to feedback. They do try to improve. They're always trying to improve. So I hope that now they're able to take a breather now that they've got a couple of spaces, and I know they're doing tryouts and stuff. So I hope that 2016 will be amazing for them, because they are a fan favorite and they have some great personalities. We really bonded with Dreadnought.
Dreadnought is a class act.
Yeah, and we've bonded with other members too, but we really got to hang out a lot with Dreadnought, and I personally too had a couple of really long good conversations with Dreadnought, and I love those guys. I hope all of them, both not on Tempo Storm and still on Tempo Storm, will find their what will make them happy in 2016.
I would comment too, this is a little bit tangential to Tempo Storm, but another thing that you mentioned, they kind of had to be the example for this young scene. For what it's worth, as someone who's lived in a team house, I suggest to all non-Korean team house operators to think about having separate living situations from your working situations, meaning have a LAN center that's your place that you have your players come to work every day, and then have them live somewhere else, even if it's together or separate, whatever. There's just something about the North American or European psyche that does not respond well to the live and play and work in the same exact place. And I feel like I saw that in Tempo Storm a little bit. I have no basis for that. It's just my own observation. You asked about my thoughts, so there they are. I would suggest that people learn from that example too.
Yeah, I mean, you have very good insight into that because you've lived it, for sure. And then, I mean, Tempo have an amazing manager, so I have no doubts that they're going to get a lot accomplished. We here love Zoya very much. I know he's in chat too, so this heart is for you. This heart-shaped heart, hand heart, weird, but definitely heart-shaped, is for you, my friend.
We had a really good time hanging out with him, so hi, dude. Thanks for hanging out with us so much.
We do.
Yeah, and I respect so much how much hard work he puts into that team. I think it is going to be amazing this coming year. I think Tempo Storm is going to rock it. Yeah. So, that's our opinion.
We actually plan on having Zoya on again sometime soonish, so he'll be here.
He's become our consultant of sorts on like events.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll bring him on. Zoya, we promised now. Sorry, you have to do it.
Yes. We've said it here, so it's official.
Yeah.
What's one piece of juicy gossip each of you can tell us?
That was Ishtaro's question, I remember. Juicy gossip. Ooh, I have one, but can I reveal it?
I don't know. Is it about me?
No.
Oh, then I say.
It's I don't think people were hiding it. It's a romantic one, but you never know who's like open with their relationships or not. I'm checking Facebook to find out.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I think it's open.
I'm checking Facebook to find out.
Of course. That's funny. I can answer this while you're checking.
Okay.
Between you and Anna, who was the Cho and who was the Gaul? Anna got to play both, but when we played together, she was Cho and I was Gaul.
Yeah.
And lots of fun was had. Any insight or your personal thoughts about team shakeups? I'm guessing you spent some time around the teams. Arthlon and Zuna are free agents. Any future plans from the Korean and Chinese teams you guys found out about? I didn't find anything out about the Korean and Chinese teams, except I'm assuming the Braveheart people will part ways and go back to their teammates, but who knows? I mean, in 10 days, they practiced their hearts out and got to the point where they defeated Tempo Storm, so who knows? But we didn't hear anything from that. I don't think that's something that we could really divulge anyway.
What is?
About team shakeups, if we knew before. I feel like that's kind of...
No. The teams have to announce it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not our place.
We need teams to... It's very important for us to have teams have trust in us. Because we want to be able to talk to them and bring their stories about, and in order for that, they need to be able to trust that we won't divulge information like that. So that would be very important, but I don't really know anything about that. Okay, you go ahead. Your gossip.
It is on Instagram, so I'm allowed to say it. So Kubi has a girlfriend, and it's really sweet because she works for Yellow Light Live, which is the production crew that we've been working with throughout the entire road to BlizzCon, and that is how they met, because she was in the production truck and thought he was super cute and organized a way to meet him, and now they're together and they're adorable, and I really like her. So
she's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So grats to Kubi. That's juicy gossip.
Let's tell you something really fast about Kat, because that's her name. She's amazing. Anna, what was it she brought you?
Oh, almonds.
Opening week, yeah. Opening week does not really know us. Has maybe met us once. I think she met us once each. And she knew I was sick and was constantly losing my voice. And she knew Anna was not really liking the catering, and but she was wanting some protein and had been trying to find some trail mix. So like goes to the store, gets me cough drops and Anna almonds, and Kylara, she brings him bread too, because he had gotten like food poisoning.
She like overhears this, by the way. It's not like we asked her. She just like happened to walk by and hear that we wanted these things.
Yes, and went to the store and just like, here you go, here's some cough drops for you, here's some almonds for you, and here's some bread. I hope that you'll be able to eat that, maybe make you feel better. And it's just like, I love you.
Yeah, she was awesome. There were a lot of people that were like that too. Whenever we start to list people that helped us out at BlizzCon, I feel bad because we're leaving out so many people who were so kind to us, took such good care of us, took feedback from us, made the show amazing. Kim Fan, by the way, we haven't mentioned her.
Oh my gosh.
During this show, but she made the entire show happen, and she was so forthcoming with us, like really wanted us to succeed, always takes such good care to give us feedback and listen to ours, and so I want to give her a heads up, a shout out too.
I agree.
Any other questions?
Yes. Last one. Beyond the esports standard, what do you think needs to happen to make Heroes esports work? What went well at this BlizzCon for Heroes, and what didn't? That's a very big question.
That was Matt Wiltshire's?
That was Matt Wiltshire's.
Loaded? I didn't hear the first part. Beyond the production?
Beyond the esports standard, what do you think needs to happen to make Heroes esports work?
We need more players. That's just, I think, pretty obvious. We need to keep growing. And I think, luckily, Heroes' viewership has been incremental, meaning a lot of games will be like, whoop, really high viewership, and then kind of meh. Luckily, Heroes so far has been this steady incline, it seems to me. This is not official stats. It's just what I have seen. So we need people to be excited about playing the game. I think Cho'Gall is a really, really good step in that direction. It's an ingenious distribution strategy for a hero that's going to bring lots of people together to play it, which is going to mean they're going to have more fun, because Heroes is way more fun to play with another person that you are talking to. It's also going to evangelize it to other people, because people are going to bring in friends to play Cho'Gall with them so that they can get gold. I think that's really good. As far as to make our production even better, I think that communication is going to need to be improved between all the parties that are involved in the production. I think there were a lot of mistakes that were made simply because the right person didn't talk to the right person to get information conveyed. But I think that's something internally that will be handled, and it's not something that anyone of you can do anything to help. It's just insight. And I think this is a little bit tangential and very topical to misscliks, but I would put out there that for the hero scenes to thrive, there needs to be positivity and protection from harassment and a safe space, because there are so many people who came to Heroes looking for that. I was very concerned with the reports I heard about the Twitch chat during our broadcast, and I think that Blizzard is going to need to put better moderation teams in place, and that our community is going to have to self-regulate to make sure that we educate people coming in that we don't accept behavior that is demeaning or violent or discriminatory or harassing or just plain, like, not fun. That was an in-depth question and an in-depth answer, and there's like a ton more to be said about it, but I guess those are the first things that come to my mind. What comes to yours, Gilly?
Oh, I would totally echo protection from harassment. Thankfully, I don't read Twitch chat and things like that. I just don't. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't even read. I had heard that there was a very nice Reddit post about me after opening week, and I don't read Reddit because
I don't.
It's asking to expose myself to things that would bring me down, and it's very important that we keep trying to stay in this because there's not a lot of girls in esports, and that being able to have both of us in there and hopefully more and grow that too just makes it even better, makes Heroes even better of an esport because, you know, it attracts more women. At least I hope. I feel like I've met so many women, amazing women who love Heroes and are involved in Heroes in some way. So I want to keep growing that, but with that comes protection from harassment, like you said. Because we shouldn't have to avoid Twitch chat for those types of things. And it's just an unfortunate circumstance that we do, but there's definitely things that can be done to make it better. What went well? We definitely started on the right track for rehearsals, but I would like to continue that. Having less of a time for technical ramp up, so we have more of a time for actual full-on rehearsals. Like, things did get better in terms of making sure that we weren't there for as long of times, but it kind of generally just meant that overall I felt like we rehearsed a bit less. But thankfully, it was such a similar format to previous events that it was very easy for us to just jump in and keep going. But if we were to have a change in structure for the event, then we would definitely need more actual rehearsal time and not time that is stopped by like graphics or things like that. So I would say just a general improvement on that for sure. And then what do you think what needs to happen for making Heroes esports work? Getting more people into the game. And I think Blizzard has hit certain things with making the game unique in its type. Things like Cho'Gall, things like different maps, things like a map where you can't attack the core. Like constantly trying to break the molds, like we had with Lost Vikings and Abathur, continuing to try to do that, to push the mold and say, the rule is you can't do this, but let's figure out how to do it. A ranged warrior. Just keep trying to think outside the box from that. They do such a fantastic job with that. But then along with that comes boosts to things that still need improvements, like matchmaking. And they talked about that. They hit on that at the panel. So hopefully improvements to the game will bring even more people, a really big influx of people to playing the game and enjoying the game and maybe even competing in the game in 2016.
I'm seeing a little bit of discussion about Twitch chat during BlizzCon and like who got banned and who didn't. Just a little heads up, if you guys did feel like you got banned in error, be sure to message someone because it's pretty easy to get yourself unbanned if you want to be a positive influence in that chat again. I may in fact have moderation privileges there, so if you are part of the misscliks community and you can explain to me what happened, I'll ask Blizzard if you might be able to get reinstated. Be sure to just open those communication lines because I see you, the misscliks chat, as a very positive force. I want to enable you to go out and be positive in chat and explain how to be a great citizen of Twitch. So I want to enable you to do that. Are there more questions, Gilly? Because I saw another one.
Yeah, a couple more. Do you guys pick your wardrobe for BlizzCon? No, we have, and this is a PKB dank. We actually have an amazing stylist who picks out our wardrobe. Yes, Kara Hype, because she is fantastic, and she picks out our wardrobe. Sometimes it's our clothes, but she'll supplement it in based on, you know, how it's going to look with the rest of the day's wardrobe for other talent. But sometimes she'll pick things too, and it will go into the wardrobe, the general wardrobe that Blizzard has. And we could have been in a situation, because again, we're getting into the real entertainment world where I, as an actor or as a talent, don't necessarily get to pick what I wear, what I say, what I do. But she actually had a whole wardrobe picked for me that I came in and I was like, you know what, Kara, I don't feel excited about this. And she was like, I want you to feel perfect. I'm going to go buy you a whole different set of things. And she did. And that's what I ended up wearing. So mad props to her for caring that I felt really good. Yeah. It is really awesome that she never pushed. She was like, nope, you know what, you're right, I'll go shop again. And she totally nailed it too. The second time. We also had a hero ask, what do you think Blizzard and other organizers can do to make downtime between games lower, LAN and online? Some things that they did include getting draft up ready, starting draft during the commercial breaks, is really helpful so that we can get into draft almost instantly once we come back from break. And that way we can kind of push draft along, especially for behind.
I think sometimes what you're considering downtime is caster analysis, and a lot of times that's really highly valued, and so the production team will want to give the casters a lot of time to talk. So if you give feedback that you would rather that go more quickly, or you'd rather that be after the series or something like that, they may listen to that. Another thing is often teams will just leave the stage to go pee.
Yes.
That's like one thing that happens. There's not a whole lot they can do about that. Yeah. And they will, that's not like, may I go? It's like they will get up and they will go because they're players. So sometimes that happens. So there's not a whole, I mean, they're very cognizant of that, but I would say the only thing I can think of that they would maybe change at this point is how much analysis is being done in between.
Are you talking about post-game analysis or pre-game analysis?
Post, because pre was pretty much all during the draft for us. That was combined.
Yeah, there's definitely like less, like shortening that, but it does allow for more people to be involved. And I think the hope is later on that can be sort of a separate role. I would guess that's sort of where they're trending. Yeah,
and when I say that you could cut that, I personally really enjoy it, and I would not cut it because I like that part of the broadcast a lot. But if you're asking what should I suggest so that the downtime between games is lower, that's like the only thing,
right,
that I think I can think of.
Yeah, there's kind of generally the bantering between casters a lot of times before the draft or before the game, but almost always that's because someone's going pee or the draft's just not ready. The draft is taking much longer because teams are taking their full allotted time. What is it, like the allotted time if you go completely through is like 16 minutes or something? It's very long.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to make it as short as possible, but there's just stuff that comes up, or like somebody's having an issue with their headset, and so things take a little bit longer. Maybe the game takes a little while longer to load. There's a lot of things that go into between the point of starting the draft and getting into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, like when things are running really smoothly, generally it's like after the first game, you come back, each caster maybe says one thing, and then bam, you're ready to go into the draft. You do the draft really fast, you come out, each caster maybe says one more thing, and then bam, you're ready to hop into the game. That is like the way that we rehearse it and plan for it to go. But when you see things go a little bit longer, it could be because someone's going pee.
Mm-hmm. Could be. Just think about that. Or don't. It's up to you. Whatever you like.
If you don't want to.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Any other questions you have stored up, Gilly?
I think I found all of them. I see you are now. Any talk behind the scenes of moving the draft process in game? It's not something I've heard anything about.
I have heard a general understanding from everyone that it should be in the game, but no one has given me any indication that it's going to be soon.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that helps.
Okay, this is the last question. Pentacorn says, what do you think was the best hero pick? Come on.
Ha, Murky, Come
on. I liked Rexar too. Rexar was pretty awesome, but
that would have been the best until they picked Murky.
Exactly. I'm with you there.
That series, the semifinal series, if you watch one thing, usually I would say watch the finals, watch the semifinals of Cloud9. Their drafts were amazing. And again, as we're wrapping up, how about that as a segue? Next week we will have representatives from Cloud9 here. We're going to have Dunk Train and K1 Pro on our show. And for our play session, we are going to play their semifinal Murky-based team. So that will be really, really fun. So I hope you join us then. And again, this has been kind of just our sit-down fireside chat with you. We'll go back to our normally formatted show. But you guys seem to really like our draft, see, I'm getting tired. Our vlog style show when we were at BlizzCon, so we thought you might like this again. So let us know what you thought of this kind of format. We won't do it all the time, but if it's something that we might do when we get back from events or when we're at events or something like that, because it's a little easier on us production-wise, let us know if you like it, and we might continue doing it.
Yeah. And you mentioned Cloud9, and that does remind me of one more epic moment that we can talk about in Indon, is that we got to celebrate with them on stage.
Yes!
at the end.
That was really cool.
Getting to go on and be one of the first people to hug the players was really amazing. And then we took a picture together and we were like, Cloud9! And that's the picture that's on the BattleNet launcher.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Who was that? It was Babel. Shout out to Babel, because wasn't it Babel who said on 3 Cloud9? And at the time I was like, oh, this seems dorky, but it made some of the best photos because we all were like Cloud9, and all of us are going in the picture.
Yeah, just like war cries.
Yeah, it was. Oh, that's another highlight that people might see. We could do this all night, but there was a dunk train roar in the opening week. If you guys can find a picture of it, but when they won their match, he turned around and just went Wah! And just roared at the other team, like this like guttural beast roar. So look for that photo.
It was either a roar or he was extremely tired.
Yeah, yawning. Yeah.
All right, well, I was just going to say thank you guys for hanging out and supporting us, sending us tweets, coming and giving us hugs and wearing our shirts at BlizzCon or even at home or anything like that. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Best community is Heroes community, and within that, of course, is misscliks. You guys are just fantastic. You really helped Anna and I keep going and wanting to make you guys proud. And we really hope that we did.
You guys have really made yourselves known in the Heroes community, by the way. Misscliks is more well known to Heroes of the Storm esports than I think any other esport, and you guys have really done a great job of making your place in Heroes esports. So I'm really exceedingly proud of that. So thank you for everything that you've done to make that possible. As far as other thank yous and shout outs, I actually do want to say a little shout out. It's kind of a / highlight, but this was one of the first events I've gotten to do with Jeff, my husband, in Control in a really long time. And it was a really, really cool feeling for both of us to be involved in the broadcast at BlizzCon after this has been such a large part of our lives from way back when we started running Jeff's coaching business for $10 an hour, coaching StarCraft Brood War online, to now. So that I want to give a little thank you shout out to him, and of course thank you to you guys. And the usual shout outs, just thank you to all of our support staff. Billy, who we met for the first time at BlizzCon, who's our admin for this show, and who you're seeing in chat, Anaklu, is there. Thank you to Ishtara is the best, who's also there. He's our designer that throws things together for us at the last minute all the time and reminds us to keep on track, which is really awesome. Stephanie Powell, who does all of our social media, who was also at BlizzCon and did all those giveaways for you. I hope some of you won some really cool Blizzard swag. And all the bajillions of people, especially Rachel and Annie, who are our talent handlers at BlizzCon, and all the people who helped Gilly and I through that weekend. So many of you made it possible. I could keep thanking people forever, but I really appreciate it.
Me too, definitely. And we do have other shows here on Misscliks, and if you want to check those out, we have D&D shows, board game shows, we have scary game shows too, so make sure to hit that follow button here. You can also check us out on YouTube, MISSCLIKS, just like on Twitch, and then Twitter and Facebook too, to see announcements of when shows will be on, because we want to hang out with all of you. You guys are amazing. You're fantastic.
Yes. And if you want to follow Gillyweed, you can find her at GillyweedSC2 on all the things, especially Twitter, which is where most of her stuff comes through. She streams from 3 to 5 p.m. Every weekday.
CST, yeah.
CST. And usually streams Hero of the Storm and has a really fun stream where you can actually impact what happens on her stream, so you should go watch her.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You can also find and follow my friend right here, Anna. Best way is Twitter, I believe, Anna Prosser.
Mm-hmm.
And she also her website, annaprosser.com. Is that what it is?
That's right.
Ding!
I just threw a curveball at you. I just threw a curveball at you, and it worked.
You did.
This is how over a year of working together impacts your chemistry. You know.
Yay.
Yeah.
Also, Facebook, YouTube, and right here on Misscliks too. Does a fantastic job helping all of the shows grow. I love you.
So this is
highlight of BlizzCon, us getting to hang out.
Yeah, I love you too. This is the part of the show where we could go on 20 more minutes of us just being like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. You're just the best. So after 2 hours of just talking at you guys, we will cut ourselves off. But thank you so much for your questions. They were great and insightful. As always, if you have more, you can use the hashtag StormShow or tweet directly at us. We will try to answer your questions on Twitter. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye for now, friends.